There's so many ways that sport influences us today. Whether you're an athlete, a coach, a passionate fan, or a franchise owner, the impact that sport has on our daily lives is undeniable. Now that passion that sport is able to bring out of people, it's obvious all over the world. From soccer riots to championship parades. Sports have the ability to bring out the emotions in people, and they can take over entire communities. Now, what if I told you that the inherent connection between sport and psychology is currently underrealized in Canada today? Now, what if I also told you that there's an emerging field of sports psychology consultants who can facilitate the development of an athlete's performance by focusing on the mental aspects of their game? So I'm asking you to consider, how does a guy like Tiger Woods go from completely dominating professional golf for around a decade to losing his legendary ability to perform as his personal life starts to collapse around him? Or how does Ronda Rousey, who at the time was the undefeated UFC bantamweight champion, how does she experience some rather serious personal identity issues after Holly Holm knocks her out in the second round? Or alternatively, how does a guy like Marcus Stroman, who pitches for the Toronto Blue Jays, how does he undergo surgery on his ACL before the beginning of the season last year and still find a way to return to the mound before the playoffs, despite medical professionals widely claiming it impossible? Obviously, height doesn't measure heart. So these are the kind of topics and questions and conversations that often come up when sports psychology comes up. But what else are we really talking about here? Now, what if I told you that a sports psychology consultant could provide the parent of a child with social anxiety the comfort of knowing that their child could successfully integrate into a group of their peers? Or that a sports psychology consultant could provide coping mechanisms and tools to people who are experiencing personal or mental health issues to help them find peace and balance in their lives? Or that these sports psychology consultants can help teach basic life lessons like commitment, teamwork, dedication, or perseverance and composure in a real, tangible life setting. Now, I was fortunate enough to sit down with Dr. Ennis to discuss sports psychology and his association with the Kitchener Rangers. Take a look. Well, good morning, Dr. Ennis. Thanks for taking the time to sit down with me here in the Kitchener Rangers dressing room. Can you explain a little bit of your involvement with the Kitchener Rangers here?
Just this past year, they brought me on board to deal with some of the mental side of the game. So that involved some fairly regular meetings with the team here in the dressing room, for example, every couple of weeks or so, dealing with either something that had been coming up for them. For example, at one point in the year, they were having trouble getting started in the second period. And so we kind of addressed, that mental preparation between periods, how you get ready to step back out on the ice and things of that nature. And as well, there was a variety of different things that I wanted to present to the team. So as the opportunity arose, things like group cohesion, goal setting, getting prepared for games, dealing with adversity, that kind of thing. And then secondly, there was also the opportunity for any individual player to meet with me as well. So set up kind of regular office hours where they could come and see me, or if they so desired, I would meet with them whenever it was available for them. So.
As a sports psychologist, what other kind of communities do you work with?
I do a lot of other hockey players. I had 30 clients this winter that I worked with outside of the Rangers, and I also work with golfers.
So when you're working with your athletes, what kinds of improvements do you see from them?
Well, I like to think that most of the athletes that I've worked with have found benefits from the sports psychology, the mental side of the game. And in some cases it's dramatic. In other cases, it can just be preventative. But I think in all cases they do benefit from it. And that's kind of the feedback that I get from them. I've never had a player say that, it it was detrimental to their game or to their performance or to their experience of the sport itself.
Do you notice any mental health improvements when you're working with your athletes?
I know that on occasions, many of them have told me that what they acquired through working on the mental side of a sport translated into other areas of their life, most notably school. So if an athlete's working on things like goal setting, dealing with adversity, getting prepared for some kind of a competition, it's like preparing for an exam, it's like getting prepared for a heavy course workload, et cetera, et cetera.
So how do you see sports psychology being applied in other areas of society?
The two areas in particular, industrial organizational psychology and sports psychology, have an awful lot of interchange. In fact, an awful lot of the techniques that I use with my clients and with something like a team is the very same strategies that have been developed in industrial psychology settings, and vice versa. You talk to anybody in industry and they start talking about teamwork, team dynamics, and a lot of that comes from what we've learned in sports psychology and translates. A lot of leadership theories have come from sports psychology, cohesion, that kind of thing, and even goal setting to a great extent. So there's a lot of transfer there. There's also a lot of transfer in educational psychology, acquiring skills, learning, developmental issues, very much, again, a lot of overlap with sports psychology.
Where do you see sports psychology's role in Canada today, and where do you see it going in the future?
Today, I think we're in almost the dawning of an age. I'm almost breaking into song here. Dawning of an age of sports psychology in Canada. I think the great impetus was the Vancouver Olympics. Own the Podium program really did tap into the sports psychology services in Canada, put them on the front page, and as a result of that, a lot more athletes became not only aware of it, but willing to accept it. I think there was a lot of old stereotypes about, I don't want to be put on the couch and that kind of thing, not realizing exactly what sports psychology was. But the greater knowledge today, I find players are much more receptive and open. I know when I began working with athletes, probably about 20 years ago, not all, but many of them wanted it to remain confidential and quiet. They didn't want people to know that they were working with a psychologist. Today, there's no such thing. And as soon as for example, our first meeting here with the Kitchener Rangers, as soon as I said, does anybody want to work with me, there was 9 players right away, that signed up. And so the acceptance is growing. And I think with teams like the Chicago Blackhawks, openly acknowledging the role that a sports psychologist has played in developing that team. And then locally, once local athletes start to find out the Kitchener Rangers have a sports psychologist, I think it only starts to snowball the impact of sports psychology in Canada. What we need now are more educational opportunities. You yourself know that you've been looking for graduate work in sports psychology, and we're very limited in Canada. So I'm kind of waiting for that to begin to gain a little bit of credence. At the University of Waterloo, our kinesiology department is now starting at an undergraduate level to present more sports psychology. But we still need that. We also need an accreditation body. Right now it is not an accredited body. We do have a sports psychology society, but there's no accreditation.
As an aspiring sports psychologist, it was an absolute pleasure to be able to spend some time with someone with your kind of experience in the field. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy day to come and join me here in the Kitchener Rangers dressing room. So, I'd like you to think big. Think outside the box and imagine the possibilities. This idea is certainly bigger than me. It's bigger than all of us. Sports psychology will undoubtedly prove to be an invaluable resource, whether utilized recreationally or professionally. It provides endless opportunities for performance enhancement, and it delivers the remarkable ability to improve quality of life. Now, it is this connection between sport and psychology that inspires me. And the incredibly exciting thing is that because it's an emerging field, there's still a wide range of benefits that have yet to be realized. This is why it's my dream to become a leader in the sports psychology community. By contributing to the currently limited knowledge base that we have today, and by implementing programs into Canadian sport. Now, when I say that this is an idea that's bigger than myself, I come by it honestly. I'm inspired to change people's lives through the use of sports psychology, and I'm asking for your support in doing so. This fall, I will be moving to Chicago to complete a master's in counseling with a specialization in sport and health psychology at Adler University. Upon graduation, I will be eligible for licensure as a counselor, and I will receive certification from the Association of Applied Sports Psychology as a sports psychology consultant. Now, this is the only program of its kind in North America. Now, as you might imagine, this is an expensive endeavor, and I hope to demonstrate to you that any donation will serve as both much needed financial assistance towards tuition, as well as an investment in the future of mental health in Canadian sport.